Mr. Gonzalez for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to our witnesses, not only for being here, but for your incredible leadership in helping maintain our innovative edge in the United States. I've been clear on this committee from day one that I believe basic research is critical to our economic future, and I look forward to continuing to support NSF and all the great work that you do. My biggest concern right now is that we're going to fund the programs, and I believe we will, but that we are still vulnerable to threats specifically from China. Just last month, FBI Director Christopher Wray pointed to the multi-layered threat posed by China, went on to say that no country represents a more severe intelligence collection threat than China, and that China has pioneered an approach to stealing our innovation from a wide array of businesses, universities, and organizations. Dr. Cordova, you mentioned that NSF has not found any violations yet. I'm concerned, frankly, that means that we haven't looked hard enough, because I just don't believe that China has. I've heard anecdotal stories, but that they're not actively trying to take our innovation. Can you speak a little bit more to that? How confident are you that, even though you haven't found anything, that it's not occurring?
I'm not.
Okay.
You're absolutely right, and that's why we're just we actually have a new research protection group within NSF that's chaired by one of the people that's in my office, but it's of people across the whole agency to look at ways that we can tighten our procedures in order to, to mitigate against that. We are working very closely with the Inspector General. They have their own people in charge in this area, and we're talking together about what we can do and how to approach this and where there might be vulnerabilities. I mentioned earlier one of them is in the whole disclosure business. We do have, in theory, if everybody were disclosing properly all the relationships, then we would know how to tighten those procedures too. So yes, we're really working on it. And I also mentioned we'll have this meeting at the National Academies. We attend many FBI and CIA meetings, so we're on it. We just want to be careful, as we talked about earlier. You just don't want to go overboard in one direction. You want to be sure that there's a balance there.
Absolutely, and thank you. And I don't mean to be quick with it, but I will say before I move on to my next question, I look forward to working with everybody on the committee and with both of you to make sure that we can strike that right balance. We can get this right. We absolutely can, and so I look forward to that. Now I want to shift briefly to talent, specifically in AI. I ran a technology company at one point in my life, and the value of an A+ engineer versus a B engineer is actually 10x, 15x. I'm seeing the heads nod, so agreement there. I guess my question would be, from a talent management standpoint in NSF, when the Googles and Facebooks of the world can pay pretty crazy sums to our engineers, how are we competing for talent and making sure that our talent stays in the NSF or is working on the problems that we need them to work on specific to AI?
We have this rotator program that I mentioned where we can bring people in. The majority of them come from universities. There's no reason why they can't come from industry as well and work with us and share them. And that is just an amazing program that we have.
Would that require, to get it to industry, would that require a congressional fix, or is that something within your purview today?
No, it's within our purview. Okay. We, of course, just do the conflict of interest, et cetera. But no, absolutely. And now what we're seeing in universities is there's more churn there too, with people coming from industry into universities, leading for a while, teaching, et cetera, then going back to industry and so on. So I think the circulation of brain talent is going to happen more and more. Okay,
great. So the rotator program sounds like it'll be a big plus for us. And then Dr. Suvin, I want to shift to something that you said when you were talking about American leadership, and I don't want to necessarily prime you, but another priority of mine is to make sure that we're promoting STEM for women in STEM. And you made a specific comment about having no tolerance for harassment. Completely 1,000% agree. How can we do a better job of making sure that we are fostering an environment that is more conducive to women in STEM?
It's complicated. I think we've been working at that for quite some time. I can think back to when I was a young researcher. Coming to NSF was always wonderful because NSF got it early and there were women in the building, and lots of places I went there weren't any women in the building, so it was always pleasant to visit NSF. And I think if we look at some statistics, it looks like we're not making much advancement on having women in science and engineering. And yet if you look at the numbers are going up. It's just that the growth of the workforce in science and engineering is going up faster than the number of women. I think we have to have a textured approach. I think we need to look at multi-facets. And part of that sometimes can also be looking at little things. I know this will sound maybe trivial, but I remember being on a faculty search committee and going to the first meeting where people said that they had already previewed the applications and they'd culled them down to just those that had the right number of publications in the top journals. And I said, that's wonderful. I'd love to redo the count. And they said, wait a minute, no, we know the top journals. I said, you know the top journals, but I'd like to do it by page count, not on numbers of papers. And they said, it's the same thing, the journal's published. I said, no, it's not the same thing, because often the woman or the person of color or the first-generation college goer will collate more results into one paper so that when they submit it, they have confidence it's going to be accepted. And I said, I don't believe that, but we'll recount. We got back the next week, and there were 5 more women in the pool, 1 Native American and 1 African American, just by looking at the longer paper. And the journals aren't going to throw pages at somebody. Yeah. We may need to have the passion that NSF has had to understand it's important and to take steps to do things within the foundation, but we need universities, we need industry people, we need everyone to try to look at different biases that could also feed into the AI question we had earlier, that might be not recognizing the talents of people that we actually have.
Great. Well, thank you. My time is up, but again, I just want to thank you both for your leadership. And one final comment: the little things add up, right? They make a big difference. And so I appreciate your sentiments, and thank you both for everything.
We were delighted to give Mr. Gonzalez some extra time for that fabulous last question.